Hello everybody and welcome to another Transformers third-party review. In today's video I'm taking a look at a slightly early pre-production sample of the mighty DITKA from EAVI Metal KFC. This is part of their Phase 7 series. Now to all of us, of course, this is an unofficial version of Masterpiece Blitzwing. Now, KFC have done a really nice job of giving us a very tank-like appearance. Now, we've already had DX9's equivalent. I do have that for part of the comparisons, and it was much more simplistic, whereas Keith's Fantasy Club have decided to go for the more realistic detailing along with the tops of the tank here, and you've got all of these sections along where you can add additional tools. We've got these really nice treads along the side. It's a different approach. It's not cartoon accurate. Now, of course, for the Masterpiece line, ideally we want cartoon accurate in bot mode and vehicle mode, but that's an extremely difficult thing to accomplish because obviously transforming robots in a cartoon is a lot easier than transforming an actual toy in real life. To actually make it work, it's a very difficult process. Now, as you can see, I've actually lost one of my pieces for this already. The test shot came through and we moved a load of stuff around and I managed to knock the front of the tracks off there. This section just pegs in and comes down. It is somewhere, it did come with it, but unfortunately I need to get the video done. I've got a large backlog and I've been rather under the weather. Now I have a sinus infection, just to throw that into the mix, so lucky me. Yes, so this bit here, it did come with it, but it's not really that essential. It's just part of the aesthetics there for the tank mode, but we can work without it. Let's get stuck into the accessories. Now, along with the standard accessories you would expect from a Masterpiece figure, including Blitzwing's sword, which does light up using the button at the base there, an alternative crazy Transformers animated inspired Blitzwing head, his gun, which can fold down and can fold down. It's just a regular Blitzwing gun, pretty much what we've come to expect. We get his rockets, and throwback to the original toy, the rockets do in fact fire. And they fire quite a way. Pretty sure that wouldn't pass European safety standards. We get the American football, hence the name DITKA as well, based on the American football coach. This is from that one episode when they were in a stadium, but according to his bio, this is now being converted into a kind of grenade. We get a screwdriver, and we also get a load of bits on sprues. These are to cover up screw holes if needed, and we also get a huge array of weaponry and missiles. Now I like to keep mine on these because I lose the big bits, so I'm definitely going to lose all of the smaller pieces, aren't I? But there's a fair few shots online of all these assembled, and I know the Chosen Prime, they assembled a couple of them as well. They're a nice touch, you know, they're very G1, the sort of thing we used to get with the toys and we don't these days, and it's a nice throwback. It's something they didn't need to do. I'm never going to display him in his tank mode, he's going to be displayed in robot mode, and these are all pretty much to be used with his tank or the jet mode, but it's a nice little accessory that didn't need to be included. They've kind of gone above and beyond. And of course, being part of the KFC X Transbot Club, it does come with a flight stand. Let's take a closer look at some of the intricate detailing on this figure. They really have gone to town. It looks and feels like a real tank. I mean, it's got some serious heft to it, very strong consistency on the plastic, and a good use of die cast. This is easily on par with some of their best figures. For example, their Simba. It's a very well built figure. I really am quite fond of this guy. We have two little hatches on the top there where we can put our masterpiece style figures. That's a nice little touch. We have a turret which can rotate all the way around. It can slide forwards and backwards. We can push the turret itself. I believe this is the turret. I don't know. We're going to have a few tank experts comment and tell me I'm completely wrong. But the long shaft can slide inwards and outwards, and it can be moved up and down where needed. It just rolls on that rocking section there. You know, that's a pretty long shaft there, isn't it? Now, the drawbacks of this mode. I believe the original G1 toy, I haven't had it for a long time. I used to, though. I believe it would have had the turret facing this way and kind of slid over like that. I'm sure that the jet section was at the back. But we can't do that with this because we have the lights on the back there. I mean, if that's all I've really got to criticise about the tank mode, then they've done a pretty good job. Underside is extremely tidy. Now, I've had a lot of difficulty capturing this purple on camera. It's a very pastel-esque tone, and it's extremely difficult to get the exact tone. For some reason, you set the white balance on your camera, and it's still just not quite right. But I seem to always have this sort of trouble with purple. It's just one of those colours which really do elude me. Here he is alongside Goat. Now, DX9 did give us a much more G1 toy inspired look to the tank, in my opinion, and it's very toy-like colours. There's not really much realism going on there, and size-wise, it's a lot taller, but DITKA definitely gets all of the length there. And as far as weight goes, DITKA weighs in at £1 10 ounces. That's 746 grams, and Gewalt is £1 and 8 ounces. That's 705 grams. And finally, just to throw a third shade of purple into the mix, here he is with the MP-10 Evangelion Optimus Prime. See, that's a pretty good scale, in my opinion. We've got these little tiny posable cannons on both sides. And if we come to the front here, if you just look underneath here, there's actually a small release button. If we push that button in, it allows us to eject the tank turret. Now obviously he does transform with the tank turret on, that's absolutely fine, but I know some people may want to display him in his jet mode on the flight stand, and it's just a nice little way of making that a little bit more jet-like, so to speak. So if you see there's just that small nubbin on the inside there, just line that section back up and just pop that down like so. Right, let's transform him up into his jet mode. Come around to the back, flip up these side wing sections here, come onto the top of the turret and flip up this section here. Untab this purple section here just by pulling down on the chest, and this now allows us to bring this section, that's on a really nice ratchet there. That's going to come round to the side, and where we've got this section here, we're going to just tab that in like so, and we're going to do that with both sides. Coming around to the underside, these purple sections here are tabbed together. We're just going to pull those apart and lift those up, and these back sections here are plugged in fairly firmly, so grabbing the die-cast feet and the back section here, just give those a little tug apart and the peg just comes straight out, and bring these sections up, out and around. So you need as much space as possible because we have these folded sections here. These are underneath. You want to fold those all the way up and out because they're going to tab in to the base here and fill in the bottom of this mode. So let's bring that back up and over, and as we bring this section up, we've got these wing sections here. You slide the wing up like so, and then we're going to bring this section down and locate that back in. As you can see, we have this tab section here that's going to line up and just tab in on the base, and the left and the right section also tab in together. Now, before we locate these circular tabs, you want to just lift up this section here, and there's the nice face reveal there. To the underside where the tank wheel sections are, you want to rotate this section around, and this section around here. They're actually going to flip up and form the wheels. I like how they do that. That's a really nice little step there. Section here is plugged in very firmly. You have to give it a really good wiggle to lift it up. Bring this section up, and as we bring this section up, we can push down, and this section can then come up and around. This hinge section is going to rock backwards and then back inside like so, and then we can just close this section off, and there's a hole here and a hole here. That is going to close, and that's going to tab and locate in, and we can just close that section back off again, pushing and holding that firmly in place. Open up this section here and this section here, bring the nose cone out, rotate it around, and then bring it up to tab that into place, and then close those sections back off. Bring this section back down, and there's a tab just in the top of the cockpit, and pushing that down lifts the cockpit up. I'm not really sure how to get that to avoid lifting the cockpit up, but that's kind of what it does. And the last step is just bring those sections over, and we can just plug them in on top. Now, jet mode, in my opinion, is definitely the weakest of his three. There's just too much bulk going on there, but that being said, it's actually probably the closest to his G1 toy. That was a bit of a chunky jet with a big tank underneath there, which is pretty much what we've got going on here. At least we can store the missiles here. They can actually be stored at 3 points. You've actually got an additional peg on the underside here and one there, so you can store the missiles at 3 different points. My die-cast tail fins don't really want to stay in place. They're pinned, but the pins do shift slightly. I believe that's because this is pre-production, and I'm not the first reviewer to get this piece, and I won't be the last. So yeah, that's probably why there's a little bit of play on those, but yes, they are die-cast. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a jet. And here I have him just taking off. See, he's now about to put his landing gear up. I do see why they've given us the option to take the tank section off the base here. Obviously, I've got the wheels down at the moment, so I've got the tank turret completely compacted, but we can obviously have the tank coming all the way out to the front. But obviously taking this tank section off would make the jet a lot more streamlined. As you can see, there's a bit of wobble going on here. There's just so much heft with this guy. And we get some cheeky little thrusters on the back of the rotating turret section there. For a jet mode comparison, wow, that's actually the first time I transformed Gewalt. And he is massive, isn't he? I'm not a fan of all the panel folding. I love DX9, I love some of his work, but it's more of a kind of a puzzle, I guess. I know a lot of people like that. People moan about the X-Transbot's complexity. And the KFC branch of X-Transbots, they've kind of kept it much more minimalistic with very simple yet effective transformation process. And to be honest with you, this is definitely more Masterpiece style in my opinion, but this is probably around the right sort of size. Again, we have the Prime truck there for a scale comparison. Yeah, I think I think DITKA's just a little bit too small in his jet mode. Right, we're going to get him transformed up into his robot mode because that's where he excels in my opinion. But before we do, let's just not forget he does have these little posable flaps, which is lovely, isn't it? And the cockpit does in fact open like so. We've got a little seat in there as well. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's flip this bad boy over. You want to bend these down, rotate them around like so. You want to pop the wheels inwards and then just bend this section down and down as if it were going back into tank mode. And untabbing them from the bottom section here, you actually want to bring those down and they're going to form part of the shoulder sections. You want to basically reverse transform the nose cone section. So open these sections out, you want to untab it, rotate it around, bring it back inside and then close those sections back up and just untab this section from there, freeing it up, and you want to bring this section up and forwards, flip these panel sections up, and then bring this section up. And as you can see, I've got some paint damage on here, but again, this is a pre-production sample. Push this brown section up. Now remember, it is incredibly stiff. It's on these sliding sections. It's basically so we've got enough room to rotate this section up, and as we bring it up, we're actually going to slide it down on its own sliders. Bring DITKA's head out and around. This section can now go inwards, and as you can see there, as it goes inward, it actually drops down on these hinges. So those hinges are right at the base here. The head is on a rotating hinge at 2 points, and we've got this bend section here. If you look, there's a peg that's going to bend down, and that's going to peg in to the front section here. That basically locates the head into position. We can bring this section back up, straighten up the head, and just tab in the chest section. Untab the leg sections on both sides, and then untabbing the leg section, you want to bring this section up and over these die-cast wing panels, and basically this section is going to come around and rotate, and as we bring it down, there is an arm section in here that's tabbed in at several points along here. You want to pop that up, bring the arm outwards, rotate it around and give it a bend. The shoulder section will rotate down, and it's on a rotating hinge here. You want to just line this up like so, so that's tabbed in. We can then adjust these shoulders accordingly, and you got this back section here. The wing sections are going to come inwards, and these here are on a rocking hinge. They actually rock upwards, and they're going to come in behind these arms. So just straighten them out. So just slide these sections in behind the arms and then rotate them down behind the back sections like so. And we've got these shoulders here. Come around to the forearm sections, and then just flicking these sections here, we can bring the hands outwards and rotate them around and then close this section back off. If we just look on the back of the second wing where I still have the tank tread section, there's a little tab here, and that tabs into the underside of that, just holding this section in place. As you can see, it's really starting to come together now. These back tab sections are going to tab in together, and to do that you need to fold these sections inwards first and then bring them over and tab these together. And the easiest way to fold these sections inwards are just to disengage the shoulder tab sections, and then once they're tabbed in, just tab those back together. Come down to the legs, and in true Seeker style, you want to just pull and extend those out. Lovely metal ratchets there. Come down to these feet, and the feet are going to just pull outwards, and they are going to extend. you want to extend this heel section like so, and then that's actually going to extend again, really tight die cast there. And again, this is a pre-production sample. I'm not the first person to own this, hence there is a lot of paint wear and chipping on the base of these feet. See what I mean about this having a little mind of its own? And with the finishing touches of just extending his tank turret, here we have DITKA in all of his glory. I think he looks incredible. That's a very good animation representation of Blitzwing. I think they've pretty much nailed his bot mode. We do have the option to store the launchers here, or as a whole here as well. I'm not really a fan of having the launchers on in his robot mode. It's entirely up to yourselves if you want to do that though. The gun can also be folded up, it just flips over. That bit flips in like so, and again that can just tab up on the inside there, out of the way, but of course it is a gun, so we are going to be using this as a gun. So you want to flip this section outwards, bring it out like so, and then we can just bring this section down like that. And there we have the Blitzwing gun. Much like the MP figures, we have this small tab on the gun to secure it into his hand, as do we have the same tab on his sword. Absolutely loving how clean and precise he's come out, considering how much detailing we had in the tank mode. Most of that has been folded up and hidden, and that really is a great representation of Blitzwing. It's like they just ripped him straight out of the animation movie. Really nice clean head sculpt there. I can't really seem to get the head to sink in enough. I mean, it can look up and down, but if I try to get it to learn left and right, these sections seem like they need to be pushed down a little bit more, but when I do that, it does kind of tend to pop the chest. That's probably me doing something wrong. But, I mean, we can rotate the head, but the chest section here does tend to pop out when we do that. We do get the chance to look up and down. We can have a little bit of a quizzical look to the head as well. But again, everything's meant to tab in there, and it doesn't quite work. That may be because it's a test shot. Don't get me wrong, it looks fantastic when you get that pose on, but it's not exactly how it's meant to be. It's meant to be tabbed in whilst he's posing, and it unfortunately doesn't quite do that. Coming round to the arms, we get the shoulder sections, which can come up and down. We can bring them forwards and backwards. Lovely tight ratchets, upper bicep rotation, and a double jointed hinge at the elbow. Not an ugly hinge either, it's kind of a piston thing going on there. The hands can rotate, and we've got full articulation on all the fingers, although they are pretty much all the same size, are they? No, I think they are. They are how they're meant to be. We get ball joints at the base, and then we have a hinge and a separate hinge, so we can pretty much pull off any pose we see fit. The waist. Fantastic ratchet there, considering the size of this big chunky monkey of a backpack. There's a lot of rotation there. I mean, we can get some really natural walking poses with this guy. The hip skirts can flare out to the sides and the front, allowing for some pretty nice range. Not completely natural, but pretty nice nonetheless. We can come out to the side there. Now there's a lot of weight to these legs, so a little bit of vibration and they will drop down. The knees again are double jointed, so we can get a nice range on that positioning. There's an upper thigh rotation. Coming down to the feet, they can go upwards and downwards. We can drop them to the side, you can sink that foot slightly further in and we can get a really nice deep stance. But again, this thing just really doesn't want to stay out of my way. I mean, considering how much weight we've got going on there, I mean, that's a pretty deep stance being held up entirely by those EAVI joints on the waist, and it works. It's got so much playability. Right, here he is alongside Gewalt, or Newalt. To be honest with you, I love how stocky Gewalt is. He's got a really robust kind of, I'm going to kick you in the ass kind of look to him. He's a very soldierish looking figure, whereas you get to DITKA, he's kind of more slender and sleek. But that being said, I still think DITKA has that animation accuracy vibe to him, and it really does make all of the difference when you're collecting your masterpiece figures. DX9 comes out with some fantastic looking toys, but they're not really masterpiece. They don't have the right aesthetic. The Megatron, on the other hand, that was a little bit different. Mitron really did kind of tick the masterpiece style boxes, but I think Gewalt kind of just missed it slightly. But that being said, if you have Gewalt in your collection, do you really need to get the KFC version as well? Probably not. But if you're on the lookout for your very first Blitzwing, then I personally would go with the KFC version just because it's more in keeping with the masterpiece style. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, share it, and of course subscribe. I'll try and get a few photos up on my Facebook page with some more comparisons as I get the masterpiece figures out of storage. And again, I will try and edit this video to get the purple as close to its actual colour as possible. Until next time, from myself and DITKA, thanks for watching, goodbye.